So yesterday I was driving around the north shore of Auckland, New Zealand, and now I'm driving around northern New South Wales. Although it looks like I just took a wrong turn. I don't think this is where I'm supposed to be going. U-turn 100 metres. Tweed Coast Resorts. Fuck, you can't do that. So I got some interesting feedback to yesterday's driving stream. People thought I was driving too fast. People thought I shouldn't be driving in the rain while streaming because the rain is so dangerous. I don't know, take my chances. I think it'll be just fine. Driving a rental car, Kia Cerato. Never driven one of these before. It's not bad at all. It's got the Apple CarPlay, so this will be a. Is that better? Interesting test. I've never used the Apple CarPlay either, but it's so far pretty good. Just pull up the maps on your phone, put in where you're going, and then plays it through the big screen on the car. And it looks like it's giving me directions and while I'm streaming at the same time, which is kind of cool. So much traffic, it's unbelievable. Just driven down from the airport in Brisbane, which was about, I don't know, 2-hour drive. Thought I was in Los Angeles with this bloody bumper-to-bumper traffic. Where's my Tesla auto drive when you need it? So on the plane on the way over, I was listening to a couple of YouTube shows, and funnily enough, both of them had this guy, Zach Voorhees, this Google whistleblower. And I have to say, I was actually pretty impressed with the guy. I listened to him on Alex Jones first. He was there for an hour and a half. And then he was on the Quite Frankly podcast with Tracy Beans and Frank. And I'm a big fan of Tracy Beans. You know, for some reason she gets a lot of shit in the truther community, perhaps because she was early on associated with Q, and there's people there who hate Q and are determined to attack anybody talking about Q. So maybe it's because of that, I don't know. But I think she does great work, great research. She asks good questions, and this guy Zach really impressed me as well. But neither Tracy and Frank nor Alex asked him the big question, which is, how was he at YouTube a witness to the YouTube shooting that I think 3 people got shot? I don't know if they all died, but supposedly the shooter was Nassim Agdam, the Persian lady that was a vegan and has basically become Saint Nassim, the first martyr of YouTube. So when this guy Zach, in his witness statement dug up by Hoax Wars, said that the shooter was a heavy-set man, about 5'9". So Nassim, possibly that was a transsexual. I don't know. It's sort of hard to tell these days. But I wouldn't describe her as heavy-set in any way. She was very slender and slight. So, he saw this heavy-set man doing the shooting, and all of the reporting was about this female shooter. Surely that is worthy of some, further follow-up. questions. How do you go from witnessing a workplace mass shooting to then becoming a whistleblower against your employer and turning on them? Now, I don't know if you can see the mountain in the distance there. It's called Mount Warning. It's the Nightcap Ranges. And you can climb all the way to the top of that mountain. It's beautiful. If you look at it from this angle, it almost looks like the body of a giant. The face of the nose and the chin and everything stretching out. So I'm heading into those mountains and probably lose the stream as I get closer up into the hills, but should be okay for a while. I used to live around here. I used to live in Byron Bay, New South Wales, which is the most eastern part of Australia, and it's paradise. I mean, New Zealand's a very beautiful country, but so is Australia, so is America, so is California. California and Hawaii, I know that they are technically states of the US, but they are culturally so different from the rest of the country that it's easy to think of them as different countries. In fact, in Hawaii, on I think it was on Oahu, I was driving around a corner once and there was a sign that said, "Slow down, you're not in America anymore." So there you go. This is a pretty rural part. New South Wales is the state where Sydney is the capital city. Sydney's not the capital of Australia, it's the capital of the state of New South Wales. The capital of Australia is Canberra in Australian Capital Territory, which it's a territory sort of like District Federal in Mexico City, or District of Columbia, or City of London. They create these special zones where it's not actually part of the country and the regular rules don't necessarily apply, and then they put the capital cities in these special zones. Hey Purple One, how you going? Thanks for tuning in. I've got nothing in particular I want to say today, just sort of driving. As I was going through Surfers Paradise, Gold Coast area, they have a fantastic radio station there called Radio Metro 105.7. You can listen to it on the internet. In fact, I'm driving around the States a lot in my Tesla, which could tune into internet radio, and they play awesome music. I like techno and hip-hop mostly, and that's pretty much all they play. But I'm out of radio range now, so cruising on over. Beautiful weather here. 21 degrees centigrade. No, I'm not going to Mullumbimby. I'm not planning to. I believe the next town I'm going to go through is Murwillumbah, and then places beyond. If you're familiar with this area, you can probably guess where I'm heading. But this is just great countryside. I love driving through this. Byron Bay itself is a beach town, but the foothills around it are just really, really beautiful as well. River looks really high, so they've probably had a lot of rain recently, like we've had in New Zealand. Good guess, exactly. So all the speed limit signs here are kilometres an hour, not miles per hour. So I'm doing 100k, which hopefully that's the speed limit here, about 60 miles an hour. And coming down from Brisbane to here was 4 or 5 lane highways for most of the way. Still a lot of traffic, but now we're going back to these sort of single lane roads, which is like we get in New Zealand. New Zealand has a Highway 1, just like America has Highway 1, and our Highway 1 goes from the very top of the country to the very bottom of the country, and it's like this, a single lane each way for almost the entire Highway 1 of New Zealand. But Australia has proper or bigger freeways, and you've got a main highway that you can go on. So yeah, the Zach Voorhees guy was saying some pretty interesting shit about Google, and basically one of the Google executives testified to Congress that they do not alter search content in any way. They don't do any shadow banning. They don't do any blacklisting. and he went to the internal Google search engine for employees and typed in YouTube blacklist, and a 42-page document came up. And there was stuff on the blacklist that you would expect to be there, like the Las Vegas shooting. Anything to do with the Las Vegas shooting is basically getting downplayed in searches, and they're making sure that controversial, truth-based content doesn't come up, and people only have access to mainstream media propaganda-based content. But one of the things that I noticed on that list that I thought really interesting was cure for cancer. So why would Google's algorithms be suppressing the cure for cancer? Why don't they want people looking into cures for cancer? That's really, really strange. So, this guy's fearing for his life. He got swatted, quite literally. He heard helicopters overhead, and then his friend was coming to visit him and said, what's going on at your house? The police have closed off the street. And he lives in the Mission in San Francisco, which is like the super hipster district these days, kind of like Brooklyn, I guess. But the Mission used to be pretty cheap and quite a strong community sense down there. Mostly kind of Latino ethnicity, I would say, in the old Mission. And it's become gentrified, and all these like Twitter and YouTube and Google execs have come in and bought up the houses and renovated it and taken over the neighborhoods, and it's lost a lot of the community feel, like many places in San Francisco, unfortunately. And so it's sort of a big deal. He said between 20th and 22nd Street and Valencia was all closed off by the cops, which that's a pretty major part of town. And they had 2 helicopters up there, and it was all about this guy. And they actually they found on his porch outside his door, his roommate is into fire twirling, and this is a Burning Man guy. He invented some LED lights for cycling gloves to give a turn signal on your cycling gloves, which I think that's a pretty good idea, and he was inspired to do that at Burning Man. So his roommate practicing fire twirling, that's quite common behaviour for San Francisco. And they had a little jar outside the door with some of the alcohol that they used to set fire to for the fire twirling. And the cops came. This guy Zach refused to answer his door. They didn't have a warrant, so they said, "Oh, that looks like it could be explosive material. We need to lock down the blocks, and we need to send in the bomb-sniffing robot and everything like that." And now, is it really that this was a legitimate fear of terrorism or a bomb, or they've never seen fire twirling liquid before or anything like that? Or is it really trying to harass this guy because he's a Google whistleblower? And you're blowing the whistle on basically Google and YouTube trying to manipulate the election by manipulating search results and the algorithm. And we all know that this is going on. I think it's been quite obvious to people that the big tech companies are shadow banning all kinds of content, and sure, conservative content, but also like my burners.me site, and particularly the Facebook page, has been shadow banned for a long time, since probably 2015, certainly before the last American election. And despite the fact that I'm a Trump supporter, I don't write a lot of that content on my blog. It's definitely not a political blog. And these days I mix up whatever really I'm interested in is what I put on the blog. But it did used to be almost exclusively Burning Man and burner culture content. So why would that be shadow banned? And then you look at, well, what sort of content is there that might bring about a shadow ban? Well, it's stuff that's critical of Google, and it's stuff that's critical of Burning Man, and it's stuff pointing out that they use Burning Man for social engineering, to create the culture of Silicon Valley, and increasingly these days of Hollywood as well. And this is the progressive values of the extreme far left that are being thrust upon the world. This is the Facebook having 72 different genders, and the idea that in San Francisco, and perhaps this is all of California, but if you misgender someone, meaning you call them by a pronoun that they find offensive, you face up to 4 years in jail for that. But if you go and deliberately infect someone with HIV, that's only a misdemeanor. Now, how fucked up is that, right? That is just completely twisted on its head. You give someone AIDS, it's almost like murder or manslaughter, right? It's like a death sentence. You're deliberately infecting someone with a fatal disease, right? That's really bad. That's not a misdemeanor. But, calling someone her when they want to be known as him or vice versa, okay, perhaps that's upsetting to them, but 4 years jail for words? What happened to sticks and stones break my bones and names will never hurt me? So this whole snowflake culture, that's, I think, infesting universities across the US. This has really come out of the San Francisco Bay Area, and particularly Stanford and Berkeley, and going even further up the food chain. I think the social engineering stuff comes out of Tavistock in the UK. So, these tech companies are pushing this agenda, this progressive agenda, and these progressive values, and it's they're basically they're unchecked, right? Like if they can have congressional hearings on this stuff, and the people come before Congress and their testimony is just outright blatant lies, and information and documents come out proving that they're lying, and the people who lied under oath, they don't get in any trouble. There's no perjury charge or anything like that being committed. But whereas the whistleblowers providing the documents and proving it, they're getting swatted. They're getting helicopters over their house, and bomb sniffing robots knocking on their door. Blocks of the neighborhood shut down. Try explaining that to your neighbors why they couldn't get to their house for 3 hours because the police were doing a wellness check supposedly that then turned into this crazy kind of bomb threat. Now, we also heard about the wellness check gone wrong recently with one of the people following the cicada puzzle. Zelador, I think his stage name was, Sam Fullerton. Wellness check on the guy. The cops show up and, he shoots and kills the cop. His girlfriend gets wounded in the shootout, and this guy gets killed as well. I feel very bad for the police officer showing up to check on some, internet puzzle guy, and that's the end of his life. Just, is this guy okay? Go knock on his door, see if he's all right. Bang, you're dead. I mean, that's pretty terrible, right? But what's the deal with these? It's like weaponized wellness checks, right? Wollumbin, that's the Aboriginal name of Mount Warning, Wollumbin, and it means the cloud gatherer. And it's quite fascinating to watch as the clouds gather around this mountain and form in the shape of the mountain. So yeah, this guy Zaki said on Alex Jones and on Tracy Beans that he's very afraid for his life, and he thinks the only thing he can do to keep himself safe is going to the media and having a high public presence. And I hope that's true. I hope that does keep him safe. He seems like a nice guy, and he had really, I thought, quite intelligent things to say. He said that there is sort of an undercover group of patriots at Google, and they have to be very, very careful. They almost have to hide their beliefs for fear of getting fired or persecuted. And we're not talking about some fringe religion here. We're talking about actually, like, the president of the United States and the ruling party of the United States that won a free and open election. To support the president in Silicon Valley, you have to go underground and be very, very careful who you tell. I mean, how crazy is that, right? The situation is messed up. Are we back? So did I hear about the Overstock CEO? Yeah, I just was catching up on Lift the Veil show, and he was talking about that. So I'll interest about that. So I'll interest what evidence this guy's going to produce, because he said that Hillary Clinton was a victim of political spying as well. So is this going to be another attempt to pin everything on Russia and give China and Israel a pass? I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. And then also the head of or one of the top execs from DeepMind just resigned, and that's Google's AI play, where the artificial intelligence taught itself to play computer games AI coming out of our phones, right? It's like, it's not just emails and phone calls and location. It's where do we go when, and who is there at the same time, and do we interact with those people? All of our purchases, sentiment analysis, being able to see, are we happy, are we sad, are we angry? It's constantly able to, don't know anything about. So